everyone. This is the third episode of the FOREVERNESS Podcast. This is Pablo, PJ, and David, the man behind the cameras. We hope you enjoy this. What do you think about the last interview we had with Wessel?
Wow, I thought it was really cool. And it was very different from what I expected somehow.
In
So,
which way?
well, somehow I've been focusing on the details of things. And as a good philosopher, Bessel took me out of my place. You know, he just he just always asks broader questions, and he makes you take a step back. And I thought, yeah, probably in a sense that is the reason why we had him first, right? Because he's not an expert in any technology in particular or in any of the particular subjects that we're going to be dealing with in the podcast. But he's a philosopher, and I know him for a long time, and he always makes you step back and he said, yeah, I like to discuss things with him, like
Hmm.
from an actually broad perspective. And he actually blew my mind at some point. Yeah, at some point. It was like, really?
Yeah, when reviewing the interview, some things that at the time of the interview itself, I was maybe whenever I ask him about certain things about technology, I was expecting, yeah, something much more. I don't want to say precise, but I want to say like he made me
Specific.
step back. No, he made me step back as well. I got that feeling, and when I was
Yeah.
reviewing the interview, it went from okay, making me question myself about what is technology itself, what is, I was asking him about what do you think about the current technologies? Is technology surpassing us already? This kind of question. And then he would say, okay, there are some philosophers who thinks that has already happened. And what's the concept of
Yeah.
technology? And what are we with regards to technology? So from that point of view, it's yeah, I think it really takes you back.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting when I was asking him about the should we be concerned about machines being conscious, or should we rather be concerned about machines being autonomous? Like,
Mhm.
for instance, I watched one of the last reels that have come up, like have been retweeted or whatever the name, reposted in our social media, is about a robot that replaces its own battery.
Mhm.
Like, so a robot that doesn't depend on anyone to keep going. You
Mhm.
cannot switch him off or it off or her off. You cannot switch it off because when they need it, they go. They know where the batteries are, and that is the sort of thing that concerns me. It's like, I don't mind if they are conscious, but if they are autonomous and they are misbehaving, how do you stop them? That was the sort of question. And then he came back with this, yeah, text is autonomous because I think, quoting him, there is no direct connection between the intention of the author and the effect on the reader. And also with technology, the same thing happens. That technologies are designed for something, but they're used for something else. So the technologies themselves take up a whole autonomous position, right? And then after this, you were like spaced out.
Yeah.
I like it. you know, it's I like it. Yes, it's deep, but I like it. And then he yes, he made me step back completely of the out of my viewpoint, And I think that's what would be interesting to talk about in the beginning about this debate, right? Where are we? So what are these times? Do you remember his answer?
Yeah, like confusing times, no? If there's
Yes.
easier to define this time is confusing times, and it catch my mind that it says some people in tech are warning us about the dangers of AI, for example, while at the same time they are building those technologies, which
Yes.
it makes me think like about, do you think they do it because they think it's unstoppable, so it's better to that they are the ones who are building them so that they don't lag behind and they don't stay out of the game, or what, why do you think that is, if you agree with what he says?
Well, you cannot not agree with him because
Because
he mentioned Hawkins, who never developed any, as far as I know, who never developed any AI systems, but he mentioned Elon Musk, right? One of the most powerful people on the planet who wrote this letter way back, and then he's got Grok now and all that. So you cannot disagree with the facts. And that is very confusing because of the contradicting messages. But what I think your question is like, do you think that it's unstoppable and that is why people say I cannot throw it out? No, I think it's a bit of the
like
prisoner's dilemma.
just to make sure, the question is, for example, Elon Musk, he's warning us about how dangerous that the AI is while he's participating and, and building it. Why do you think? What do you think is his motivation for doing so? If
Yeah,
he thinks it's a dangerous thing,
that's what I think. I don't think that the whole thing is unstoppable, but they think I'm not going to stop my competitors. So I have to do it to compete with them in this race to death.
hmm
And I'm calling it a race to death because, not necessarily because there is death at the end of AI. I'm not a fatalist in any. I don't think that things are looking right, very good, but it's death because they don't know what's at the end, and they're running anyway. Just it's like a chicken fight.
hmm
How's it when two cars go against each other? Play chicken,
I don't
something.
know. I don't
Yeah.
know the name.
Yeah, it's like playing chicken. Yeah, I go and I'm gonna go as crazy as I can, and I don't mind, and you pull out of my way. So there is no
It's a race.
evaluation of risk.
It's
There
a
is no
race
time to.
for
Is
business.
that sorry?
It's kind of like a race for business survival, so to speak.
Yes, but a very dangerous race in which they are not stopping to think about the larger consequences. Like what is the point of Google being the most powerful company in a destroyed society, where there is not even possibility for them to make revenue because there's complete devastation? You know, you should ask, in which context do I want my company to be successful? And they are not asking themselves these questions, obviously, because otherwise there'll be an open debate, there'll be a serious moratorium, and then we'll think as a society how to go about it. You know?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like in the end, it's mostly, some, of course, big companies, they have a direction, but in the end, there are many individuals who may not be able to really decide in which direction they have to take the company to. I'm not talking about any particular company, but if I would be a high executive, high level executive in one of these companies, I may not have a choice on where to
I
take.
disagree profoundly. I disagree profoundly. We always have a choice to speak up. And if we're going to lose our job, we're going to lose our job. But when the future of humanity is at stake, no one is compelled to continue walking without raising a voice. You
Of
say,
course.
oh, I want my $2 million check every year, then I'm compelled to do this. But you're selling your soul and everyone's life in the bargain, right? So I completely disagree with these things that, oh, there is no solution. There is
Or,
no
or,
option. You've always
or,
had the option.
or maybe, you know, some maybe they think that the vision, maybe their vision is much more positive.
Yes, I believe it's very naive. It's very naive thinking that the vision is more positive. Because when you see, and now is when we don't get to the future, but already to the past, the way that algorithms have been developed to create people's addictions to um, social media is very similar to the work of Philip Morris falsifying research studies to prove that smoking was good. There is intentional misbehavior, there is intentional cheating, intentional playing with people. So I think that, oh, maybe they don't see the danger of. Hmm, I just don't buy it. I don't buy it because they are doing it already. Like, and then there are many engineers that think, well, this is my job. If I don't do it, someone else would. I think there's a lot of people that are involved in this runaway forward, as we say in Spanish. I don't know if there's a similar expression in English, but they are.
Or maybe, but I don't know it at the moment.
Yeah, but you know what I mean is like they say, oh, there's nothing else, there's no options, they don't think. I get my paycheck, I continue doing, I develop this algorithm to make people ill because that's what people are ill. And that's where, when we go back to Wessel, and in the part of the conversation, we're talking about Heidegger and his view on technology and how technology is not a thing. Technology is not technology, but our predisposition to technology, right?
Hmm.
And how we relate to technology and how much our relationship with technology conditions our day to day. Because we have a smart watch that is measuring our steps, we walk, otherwise we wouldn't. So it's not about how we feel, but about the number of steps that we see in our watch or our phone, and how far are we into that way of living in which the apps actually control of our life.
Well, the debate is that, or maybe not so much of a debate, but we are past that point already, no? Like many people, I don't know if most of us, but many people live addicted to their phones already, which is obvious, you know. And some people can still live without it a little bit, but I think the younger generations is, um, I mean, it's obvious. They're completely attached to their phone and to their technology.
Yes, but on the other hand, I see something which is quite nice. Oh, I've got many younger nephews,
Hmm.
like in their 20s, and they do detox from their devices every every year. So they are aware of it. I mean, of course, the fact that you have to detox means that it's quite toxic.
The fact that someone with 20 years old needs to do a detox of their phone, is aware that needs to do a detox.
Yes. I was also saying that if you are doing detox, is because
You were
you
addicted.
are you were addicted. But on the other hand, you can always you can only get rid of the addiction if you are aware of it, and you have this lucidity to say, I don't need it. But it's not. I don't think it's only devices, technology. You know how people travel. How people travel. Oh, I hop on a plane and go to for a city hop. The concept of city hop, the concept of Airbnb, couchsurfing, you know, all these concepts completely transform in which people approach their free time.
Your life, yeah.
Yeah, their actual life. What is of value in your life? And are we asking ourselves that question daily, how we are affected by technology?
Mhm.
Or also things like I have an intelligent fridge that tells me what I have to buy. The mere thought that you don't control how you feed yourself, how you look after yourself in the most basic and fundamental way, means that you have delegated the core. You've delegated the core of your subsistence, of your life, which is feeding yourself, to an app.
But why would that be if the app is working correctly? If the algorithm of that app knows your the points that needs to check better than you, why would that be a bad thing? Like, isn't it technology with us? Like, technology an inherent part of the human being. Like, ever since we were in the caves using the first sticks and stones, how different is that technology from that app that fundamentally is the same? Is something that we are using to improve our lives, no?
So the point was not whether it's bad or good, but whether we are past the point where there is no way back from our dependency on technology. And this is actually an empty statement, because making fire is technology, chipping access from stones is technology, and without technology, humans will be humans. But to some extent, the way I normally put this is the world will only be in order again, if this ever happens, when grandparents would know better than their grandchildren how things are. You know,
Hmm.
if we have moved to a point where everything has been sufficiently stable for sufficiently long for the grandchild to be able to listen to the grandparent giving them wise advice, which now is very far from being true or possible, because no one really knows the world we're living in, because the world is in the making. The present is in the making. The future was yesterday, and the past is just a memory.
I'm not sure I completely agree, because
Fine.
I don't think we are still in that point in which your grandfather or your dad wouldn't be able to advise you on how to on how to move in life, because society has changed so much that it's not the same world anymore. For sure, it's not the same world anymore, but I don't think it has. maybe change that much in a way that their knowledge is not something that you can apply anymore, or the knowledge that I have is more relevant. I don't think we should. I'm not saying you're doing it, but I don't think we should take value out of just the experience and the time on Earth.
Not at all. I mean, and I think
I know you're not doing it.
there is there is there are many words of wisdom that come from people who don't know anything about the internet,
Exactly.
either our elder or from cultures where they don't share technology. But and these words of wisdom, maybe the more important ones, will refer to how you relate to other humans and how do you relate to yourself. But in the jungle that we're living, you also need guidance. You need to be able to go out hunting or foraging with your grandparents and learn from them. So there's actual knowledge of how to deal with the practicalities of life. And I think that people are going to be lost until they can feel safe. That, as a child, to know that your grandparents know everything must be amazing. Must be really amazing.
No,
And you cannot have that now.
no, for sure. If we haven't passed that point, we are about to pass it. That's for sure. That's for sure. I don't know what to advise to my nephews anymore. And I always think that there's
Yeah.
between me and my nephews who are 12 years younger than I am, than I don't know, between me and my parents. I think that
In
the
a
gap.
sense.
I think the gap is bigger, or it may
Yeah,
be.
technologically, yes, because we are in exponential change. And then, yeah, in
And how
the
society
100 years that went from 1850 to 1950, there was much less change than in the 10 years that go from 2010 to 2020.
is the
And that is going shorter and shorter. I mean, that's the concept of the
exponential rate
singularity.
of evolution. No, it's like
Yeah,
more,
exponential,
more loss. No, uh,
Moore's law.
more slow. Yeah, I
And
know.
then,
Originally, it was for the chip, for the memory of the
yeah,
chip, all these kind of things. But you can kind of um, use it, or as
yes, I mean, for those who may be listening and don't, they've heard the concept. I think it's useful to remind what or to explain what Moore's law is about. So there was an observation that the packaging density of transistors in silicon was duplicating every 2 years, and that is an exponential rate. So the speed is increasing, is duplicating the speed of computational speed is, and that reflects how things change ever faster and faster. And in that concept, well, that's where the singularity comes, because there was a point where the rate of change is so fast that you cannot even keep track with it. Right?
what's the singularity?
And what's the
What's
singularity? Well, when we talk about the singularity, we are referring to the singularity is near by Kurzweil. I just I'm very bad with names. Mm, uh, in the book, and he says, okay, there is a point where technology is going to be so powerful that is going to be more powerful than us humans. And in his book, he says, I'm going to make an estimate of how much computing power have 10 billion people in their brains, and I'm going to calculate if we apply Moore's law to the to the speed, computational speed, when will that computing power be in a 1 square inch of semiconductor? So when we'll achieve this size, be able to compute as many thoughts and ideas and data in general as the complete humanity. And his first estimate is 2047, I think, and then in second of division of the book, it's 2042. Don't quote me on this. But the point, that is the alarming thought. Like, in,
Can I ask you something about this?
yeah,
Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. But do you? How does he? How do you calculate the computing power and the computing capability of the human brain? If you
that's where his that's where his concepts start being questionable. You know, you cannot possibly make that sort of computation in any reliable way because there isn't a good understanding of how the brain works to start with.
exactly, we only know around a small percentage.
Exactly, but then he can make estimates how many neurons there are, which we know, how many other units connect to on average, what is the time of a synaptic connection, and then you calculate the number of interactions that that machine can produce, and you say how much computing power do I need to simulate it, right? And because we are moving, synapses are moving, I believe, in terms of the milliseconds or many hundreds of microseconds, right? That's the order. But computers work in the range of the giga and terahertz, right? Those are, now we're approaching the theoretical limit of semiconductor devices for operation. You cannot get any much faster than terahertz, right? So, but then there are other devices like optical computers that maybe go even faster. So there there's two sides, many sides of this question, and his model is not a reliable one. Moore's law doesn't apply to semiconductors anymore, from what I understand. But on the other hand, there are carbon tubes, and there's a potential of optical computing. There is the advent of quantum computing, when suddenly
Yeah.
computational density will be so much smaller for certain processes. So, although Moore's law doesn't apply, exponential development is clearly there. So, whatever the computational power of a human brain is, you multiply it by 10 million. At a certain point, 1 square inch of
Will.
material,
Mhm.
whatever the material, a small device, even if you need a supercomputer to simulate the whole of humanity, you're done. At that point, you could make the matrix.
Mhm, 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 mhm.
You know, so that's the concept of the singularity. Now, and I think it's very interesting. I think the singularity itself, I would love to interview Kurzweil.
What's his name? What did you say his name was?
I don't remember. Look it up. I'm going to look it up. Yeah.
Google it.
The singularity is near. Ray Kurzweil. Yeah, Kurzweil. So I wasn't far at all.
Okay, okay, okay.
Kurzweil. So yeah, I would love to interview him. You know, why not? That's
So
setting the
yes.
bar quite high, but
Yes, I think they were hype, but we will. Um, so okay, so about the singularity, that brings me back to the. I was thinking before when we were talking about the comparison between the technologies. No, when I was mentioning that the stick and the stones are also technology, of course, and we were talking that maybe the speed that of the evolution of technology right now, there's gonna be a point in which maybe it's out of our control, but maybe that's part of technology is part of us, and that's just the normal evolution, the normal the normal steps of evolution. We are gonna be. I think I've heard some theories about this, that uh, we are destined to be, taken over by technology. Or
Pablo, to be destined, fate, it's, do we believe in stars and destiny? We don't. We don't. I mean, we are.
I'm not even talking about destiny. I'm talking about if evolution, if it's just part of evolution. We are meant to keep evolving. So the singularity, this brings. I was thinking before when we were talking about the difference of technologies, like when we were in caves and right now, and we were thinking that okay, maybe there's gonna be a point in which we are surprised by technology. Maybe we have passed that moment, or maybe we will. But my question is, maybe that's the natural part of evolution, and that's just what's gonna happen.
Well, whether it's natural, of course, if it happens, it's natural. And if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
You know, the concept of what is natural in the big scheme of things.
Everything is
You know,
natural.
building roads is natural. Building cars is natural because we can. Is
I-
one step further from making other tools.
What's
So
the
we don't
difference?
have to roman.
What's the difference
What's the
between
difference?
building a nest or building a building?
The question is, and of course, our dependency of technology is total. Central heating, transportation, and your electric oven, everything is technology. We're immersed in technology, and technology has always been, um, so has often been very good for humans to have a better life. The question is not if we are dependent on technology, but what is the effect of technology on us. If you think about how technology is impacting us now, the richest men in the world are the people who use technology to exploit the rest of humanity. So, technology is a means of exploiting other humans as well as a means to help other humans.
Okay.
A valve that you put in someone's heart to save their life is technology that is clearly has the potential of helping people. An algorithm that makes you addicted to a feed so they can pump more advertising in you and modify your behavior is not a technology that I consider is desirable for our society. I don't have any social media because I don't want to be exposed to that technology. You know, personal ones. Of
Mhm.
course, in the professional realm is different, but then use it for professional purposes and you stick to that. So the question is not if there is too much or too little technology, but what is the nature of that technology and how it affects our lives.
But maybe, yeah, as human beings, we have always, if following your argumentation, as human beings, we have always been using other resources. Now we are becoming the resource for whatever is next.
And that's quite horrifying, isn't it?
Could be, could be not.
Oh no, the concept of humans becoming resources is horrifying to me. I mean, maybe you're not horrified
No,
by
no.
slavery.
I'm saying could be not because we're not sure what's, and that's a question to you. I just don't want to. I want to try to keep it open. Um, maybe we'll live differently in a few decades, in a few hundreds years. The way we're gonna evolve, and maybe we live in kind of a different symbiosis with technology, and we're gonna be serving that, but it's still gonna be us.
I profoundly disagree. Profoundly. There is something quite particular to the dynamics of power. You know, I've been involved for a number of years, and I mentioned this in Wessel's interview, with trying to design systems for people to control their own lives, right? And what I have observed, and it's quite obvious once you think about it, is once power is established, it's very difficult to revert that power. If you have a transparent power, like a very healthy, transparent democracy that like there's never been,
Mhm.
maybe in ancient Greece because it was so small. But if you had a transparent power, then that would be quite solid. But if you have a dark power, it's very difficult to change.
No, I
So
don't
you need.
necessarily disagree with you. I just want to be the devil's advocate, kind of,
I
because
know, no, but let me finish. Let me finish, Pablo, first, because what I was saying is that technology that's used to um, to exploit people is giving some power to the exploiters and removing from the exploitees, and that is no way to get to a good future. No possible way that technology that gives more and more power to a few is ever going to result in a better world. Never. Because the nature of exploitation is that you just get more and more out of the others and giving them less and less.
but if that's the case, because that same technology can exploit people and can also help people on the other hand. Like, for example, social media could also be used to stay in touch with people that you care about that are far away. So it's not the technology itself that is ill intended. Maybe the people who created that technology has had a different purpose, and the real purpose is, of course, to do business. Um, but maybe it's the technology itself is not ill intended, and maybe there's gonna be, when that singularity that we are talking about surpasses us, and maybe, some AI takes control of certain things, certain decisions. You see where I'm going?
Yes, and that is in our last interview, I said, my hope is that AI is a good God. But as long as there are a few humans that own the direction in which technology is developed and they use it to exploit other humans, then there's no hope. And the question is, what do you prefer by technology? If with technology you remain you mean the fundamentals like the World Wide Web, the internet, the different technologies that are used for this communication to happen between us. The fact that David is hiding behind the cameras and recording this, the technologies, the nuts and bolts of technology are neutral.
Exactly.
But once you put the social media feed algorithms in the mix, that's not neutral. And that is also technology.
Mhm.
So the mechanics of technology are neutral,
But
but
that has
technology is much more extensive.
but that's a man program algorithm. Don't you think, like, for example, if AI becomes completely autonomous, there's an AI that becomes completely autonomous from human being, although they are programmed following certain values, which, by the way, I read an study the other day about the values are from Harvard. The values are that are represented mostly in AI are from, from the rich world, from the US and
Yeah.
Europe, from less than 1% of the population, but they are going to be affecting much more than that 1%.
See, the question, and what I always think of, there's one character in the novel, which is Olo.
Mhm.
And Olo is a baby godlike AI. And Olo travels in the first interstellar travel
Mhm.
with some of the humans. And that's the condition that the tech masters, I won't know spoilers, impose on those who are traveling to give them help to organize this first interstellar migration. And the conditions that the travelers says yes, but only if Olo is empty, if it has no values, if it's just a naked algorithm without any prior knowledge. And it will grow up surrounded by us, and it will become what it will become. But we don't want this to bring all the prejudice from the past, right? So artificial intelligence has the potential to become anything, that is for sure. But if you are training artificial intelligence to manipulate people into spending more and more time stuck to a screen, regardless of the emotional damage that you're creating to that people, you are training, you are educating artificial intelligence as a growing baby in disregarding the humans that it is manipulating.
But maybe
And there's very little hope that the grown up will be different.
why? Because if people are able to change themselves, why wouldn't an intelligent system be able to change themselves for the better?
You think that many people change themselves.
I think there's a lot of people who work on their personal development and in growing
Yes.
and in changing and breaking negative behaviors that they had in the past. Why it would make
And
a lot
that is,
to me that an intelligent system that surpasses us would maybe do that if it's, I don't know what would be the root. Like it would the same way that it would fix that a robot would fix itself when he breaks a leg or whatever. Why wouldn't AI understand uh, that maybe it needs to change its own programming in a different way?
so
That's a question that I have. I'm not saying it's gonna happen like that. I don't want to sound naive. I just want to question to
and
question
I
that.
think it's a very good, valid question. But so, number one, if people changed so much, societies would not exhibit the same pattern from centuries, right? So, how easy would it have been for men to relinquish their patriarchal privileges, like people like you and me who would, if there hadn't been a huge feminist movement where women fighting for the rights had made us see that that was unfair, and it would be a better world if we change ourselves. So I doubt very much that any men would be feminist if there hadn't been a feminist fight led by women. And in that respect, for a man being the patriarch in his family and command over women and children as if they were their belongings, that needed no healing. It was great. They perceived it as they have all this power. They could be loving to their wife or not. They could be loving to their children or not. They just, and they didn't need to heal that. They didn't need to fix it.
Okay,
It's only because, yeah.
can I interrupt with a question? Do you think if someone lives long enough, will become wise enough to become conscious and aware of their behavior and to be able to criticize their own behavior?
Maybe, but but then what
Uh,
the only thing I'm saying.
because if so, then a system that is by definition immortal, or
Mhm.
without a death, without an expiry date, uh, would get to that point sooner or
or
later.
not, or not, or not. It may get to the point where they enjoy torturing people because it's fun. As long you see, there is no reason to assert that evolution through time will lead to wisdom. What is definitely, I think there's a very much stronger argument to say that if AI from the beginning was being developed in order to be a useful member of society who contributes empathically to the development of the people around them, it is very likely that they will keep doing that in the future. It is also possible, following your own argument, that they decided to change and they thought it was wise to get rid of humans and have only machines.
That
But
would
the
be
likelihood of having a friendly AI, friendly for all humans, is much more likely if AI was trained and educated from the beginning in cohabiting
I'm not
constructively with other
I'm not
humans.
I have to remarks on this. I'm not saying necessarily friendly, but not necessarily, um it wouldn't design itself to for the same purposes that we are designing technology. We are designing technology for, some people do it for improving our lives, some people do it because they see a business opportunity and that's it, and some people do it for other intentions, with other intentions, for other purposes. Um, but maybe the intention, when technology is developing itself, if an AI is developing itself, um, it may get to a point where it does it with different purposes, and those different purposes, I'm not saying AI thinks it should be friendly with us, but maybe things like it's more useful or it's just better, whatever better means for an AI, to have a different relationship with us. That is not maybe uh, a catastrophic. Mm, I don't want to say catastrophic, but not negative from our point of view.
As you well know,
And sorry, before you answer me, also this, don't you think, or that's a genuine question that I have for you, that getting wiser or becoming wiser is unavoidable with time? Is a necessary consequence of the pass of time? It may be very slow. You see some people that, oh, they are 60 years old, and and they haven't changed in the last 40 years, or maybe there's a slight change. But I think there's always going to be some change, and necessarily improvement in knowledge, therefore more wisdom with time.
I think this is a really profound question, and I think it all depends how you define wisdom. And if you have our value system, and I mean ours, not our society, but Pablo and PJ,
Mm-hmm.
wisdom would lead to loving relationships, to loving the others, to helping others love each other. That is,
Maybe not.
I think that you wouldn't say someone is wise is if they are just hurting people around them. That's not wise.
No, no, no.
Wise is looking after people,
Maybe
looking
not.
after yourself as well. Not with our value system.
Yeah, yeah, true.
With other value systems, maybe wise is to get to the purity of the Aryan race.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, and once you are set off in one path, of course, with time, you are going to continue in that path until someone steers you away from that path. And that's completely unpredictable. So I think the point here is that you can speculate as much as you want about the paths down, the path through which AI may evolve, but this is like we've released the horses and there is and we are all screaming behind it and there are these race horses are just this fury going forward and they're not stopping and there is nowhere you can stop it because no one is doing anything to stop it. And there may be a good outcome of all of this, but that would only be so extremely lucky. We are not doing the homework to
I
propitiate that.
I understand all your points, and I've been kind of contradicting them or questioning them just because not necessarily. I'm not
Just because,
positioning myself. I'm not. I haven't positioned myself in this whole interview. I just want to outline that. But I think people would understand much more if they knew about the novel. And I don't want to say any spoiler. We don't want to say any spoiler, but I think it would be at some point very relevant to have a small synopsis. Don't you think? Some people have asked us already, some listeners, from the first episode where we were presenting the project, um, that it would be nice to have a small abstract, a small synopsis of the novel. Can you? Are you able right now to?
I can, and we can go over it with more details. It's hard. It's hard to talk about a plot without having certain degree of spoiling, right? So I suggest for anyone who doesn't want to know anything, this would be a good time to
To leave
to
this.
finish listening this podcast because I think we can finish with this. So if you don't want to know anything, absolutely anything about the novel,
Spoil.
then yeah, we were glad you were here, and we're looking forward to meeting you in our next chapter episode. But trying to make no spoilers. What is foreverness? What is the plot in foreverness? At the heart of the plot is the discovery of immortality. Okay, there's no secret. This is not a spoiler, but this is in the back cover of the book. So immortality is discovered as a treatment, a simple treatment, and people can become immortal. So the fundamental premise of the book is the discovery of immortality or eternal youth as a medical treatment. That means you can get shot, you can get run over by a car, but as long as those things happen, you're not going to die. So people stay at a certain age ad infinitum. Yeah. So this is going to pose a problem because there'll be immortal people and non-immortal people. Immortal people have to choose whether they have children or not. And if they don't have children, it's all fine. But if they have children, then their population grows exponentially. And as long as some have children, that is going to always grow. So in due time, there's going to be conflict between those mortals that choose to be immortals and those immortals that have children, because the two populations have different interests. And we're going to see how this resolves. And some supercomputers play a very important role in the development of events. Now, at some point, planet Earth is going to be overpopulated, and humans are going to start using the near space to extend colonies and the moon and Mars, and there's going to be mines in the asteroid belt and a lot. So the solar system is going to be colonized. Eventually, even the solar system is going to be saturated by this continuous exponential growth that comes because Wessel had an interesting point. Sorry that I go back. Like, oh, the premise that everyone wants to be immortal is absolutely false. And of course, in the novel, some people don't want to be immortal. But as long as some people want to be immortal and have children, we have the same problem. Not everyone needs to desire immortality for immortality being a problem.
And we have
And
already had
so,
interviews that has said that they would say yes to immortality.
yes, yes. At some point, the solar system is saturated,
Uh-huh.
and there's this the first trip without return that goes to Sophine. So the star Sophine, which is a invented star, a potential star in the sector of Centaur. So it will be Alpha Centauri, probably something like that, but it's not defined. So there is a planet Tianlan in there, which is also a blue planet with water atmosphere as an Earth-like planet, and that's the first settlement. From there, civilization starts expanding outside from Earth in all directions, creating the Helian sphere of civilization. And even the Helian sphere is claustrophobic from some, and some decide to run away from the Helian sphere, going fast, 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 trying to go to another arm of the Milky Way, leaving a huge vacuum between them and human civilization, not knowing what they're going to find on the other side. Maybe another civilization, which is even worse than humans or whatever. And all this expansion happens with with the help and support of supercomputers that rule complete planets. So in this setting, this always running away from the center with civilization is so dense. We're gonna have the life of our characters, and each one plays a different role. We're gonna see their love stories, their hate stories. We're gonna um, humankind is gonna be divided in several distinct groups: those that embrace technology, those that reject technology, those that are mixed, and then some other stuff that I don't want to spoil. And they're going to be meeting extraterrestrial civilizations. And they're going to have different relationships with extraterrestrial civilizations depending on their level of development. And this is going to go forever, forever, forever for 3 million years. That's it.
It's a beautiful novel and it should be read. I cannot stress. I was smiling while you were doing the saying that as I was remembering everything, as I was being reminded of in the novel. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's it.
That's it for today, no?
I think so.
Perfect.
Yeah,
We'll see
I
you.
thought it was.
Say.
No, I was saying I've quite enjoyed that. I've just quite enjoyed that. I hope people find it interesting.
Likewise, likewise. Hopefully, yes. Okay, we'll see you in the next chapter, the next episode.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
We'll wait for you in Tantu.
Wait for you. See you.